Andrew McFarlane here from StartAJuiceBar.com, your trusted resource for all things juice bar oriented. And today I want to talk to you about a seasonal menu versus a non-seasonal menu. A lot of times people ask me the question, which one is better? How should they approach the development of their menu? And I just wanted to give a little bit of insight as to the benefits and challenges for both scenarios, and potentially a workable scenario where you can actually integrate both. So first, let's talk about seasonality. What is great about having a seasonal menu? First, the produce and the fruit and the things that you're juicing and making smoothies from are all fresh. They're more fresh. Very likely they're more local, and because of that, they're more inexpensive. So you're going to save yourself a little bit of money in the purchase, the quality of the ingredients increases, and overall, just in terms of your, you could say, carbon footprint, it's a little bit lower. Well, what's the challenge around this? A few things. You are going to be in a situation now where your ordering is a little bit more dynamic because, one, you are going to constantly need to reinvigorate your menu, meaning you're going to need to change your menu quite often for the season. So in terms of an owner, that's just one more thing that you have to pay attention to on a regular basis when things are coming into season and when things are leaving. And it's not always the same time of year every single year. And sometimes you might have a recipe that has a few items that come in at the same time, but one of those items is missing because it's a little bit late in the season, right? So it just creates it's just a lot more dynamic, and it takes a lot more attention. So although it might save you money and it might benefit you in those other ways that I mentioned, one of the major challenges that I see is that it requires you to pay a lot of attention to when things are coming in, when things are leaving, and developing recipes around those things. Another thing that I would see as a potential challenge is that your customers, they like consistency. So although they may enjoy the juices that you are presenting as part of the whatever is in season at that time, they also still will get attached. They will find something that they liked and they loved it because it was a summer drink, and yeah, they may get over it. You know, they may get to a point where they can let go of it, but there's still that feeling of loss that they have, and they will constantly go through that experience every time they find a drink that they love, and then you have to tell them that it's out of season and this is the new replacement drink. It's not the worst thing in the world, but I just want to emphasize that in my experience, there is a huge value in consistency overall. Human beings, culturally, the way that we tend to do things is through habit, and when we find something that we can rely on, we tend to move in that direction as often as possible, pending that it seems positive for us. So you will find that your customers will come every day and they will order the same thing every single day for as long as they can. And then they are not going to be aware of, maybe you could have a conversation with them and let them know, hey, this drink's only going to be around for another week, to kind of prepare them. But that is one thing that I'm aware of, is that people definitely love consistency. So in terms of seasonality, those are kind of the pros and cons of that scenario. And let's look at a non-seasonal menu where at times you will have ingredients that are in and out of season. Let's look at the upside to that kind of menu. So as I mentioned, contrary to a seasonal menu, when you have a non-seasonal menu, you can be consistent year-round. You can make sure that you have the same drink with the same ingredients. Now, the quality of those ingredients are going to fluctuate just because they're in season, out of season, and where they're traveling from. But overall, you can still provide your customers with that consistent experience, which is positive. Two, you don't have to think about changing the menu every month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever, depending on how things are fluctuating based on where you are in the world. So that creates just a little bit more structure and organization on the operational end. You also don't have to train your staff on how to make these new drinks, which is something that I didn't mention in the seasonal version. Is that something that you also have to think about? So that's another element, is that you don't have to create new recipes. You don't have to retrain your staff on how to make these drinks. So those are a few things that are on the positive side. What I would say on the negative side, it's kind of just the opposite. The same thing is that certain things, when they're not in season, they just get more expensive. When apples are coming from Peru as opposed to California or somewhere in the United States, depending on where you're located, closer versus further, they get more expensive and the quality goes down, just based on how far they have to travel. It's just nature. So that's something that I would say is a downside, a major downside to having a non-seasonal menu. So my recommendation, I can't say that one is better than the other. I think a lot of times people ask questions from that space of what's better, and it's really just a matter of what kind of business you want to have. I can tell you what my preference is. I've always leaned toward a little bit of a merger of both, but probably more heavily on the side of keeping a standard non-seasonal menu because of just the ease of operation. But at the same time, you also have to consider the kind of business model you want to have, because there's people who I've been mentoring and consulting with, and they have the intention of scaling their business, having multiple locations. And so, okay, when you have that as an intention, you really have to think early on, how is having a seasonal or non-seasonal menu, and what kind of items do I use going to impact me in the long run when I have 10 stores and some of the stores are out of state, maybe even out of the country. So those are things that you really want to think about beforehand. But getting back to kind of the space that I usually approach this from is having a merger of both. So you would have a standard menu with the majority of your drinks, and then you may have 1 or 2 seasonal items and specials that you can even discount and have at a slightly lower price point, $1 to $2 on your menu, just to incentivize people to purchase those things. And even you can incorporate some of these things into your cleanses as well. So you could have seasonal juices that are part of your cleanse packet. And I feel like that's a happy medium between both worlds. And especially when you're incorporating these items into your cleanse, then you can always, because when people purchase a cleanse, they do it prior to them showing up. They don't show up and say, hey, give me 7 days worth of juice. They'll say, okay, I'm going to start a 7-day juice cleanse tomorrow or next week. So you have time to prepare. You know how much produce you're going to go through in that period of time. And so there's a lot more control and structure in every business. The more you can control and structure things, the more it saves you money, it saves you time, it saves you energy. So that's the word for today. And if you have any questions on this topic, and as always, if you have any other topics that you'd like for me to reflect on and just give you my personal feedback on, please put it in the comments below. If you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel. You can like the video, you can share the video, and if you also would like to reach out to me and have a free phone consultation, you can go to StartAJuiceBar.com and contact me there. All right, wishing you all well, and I'll see you guys soon.